I'm Susan.
Susan, I'm Lucy. Nice to meet you. Have a seat.
There you go.
You're welcome. So how was it getting here today?
Not bad. There was a little bit of traffic. I had a little trouble parking, but I made it here. I made it here good.
That's good. And luckily it's not snowing anymore, so it's better. But there is still snow on the ground, so
Yeah.
I can imagine parking might have been. But yeah. So before we get started, I just wanted to let you know about the confidentiality exceptions we have, or expectations, I should say. Just so you know, everything that you and I say today will be kept between you and I, and you should feel comfortable opening up to me. But the two exceptions to that, or I guess three exceptions. But the first one is if you say anything about harming yourself or harming someone else, I may have to disclose that to authority just for safety reasons. The second, if you were to get involved with some sort of court law issue, I would have to be obligated to share the video if you had shared any information that might be useful for them. And the third one is that I will be sharing this with other colleagues, but like I said, you should feel comfortable. It's only for professional reasons.
Okay.
So it might not even need to be used, but just in case. Are you okay with all those exceptions?
Yeah, those are fine.
Okay, awesome. So before we get started on like why you came here, I just wanted to know if you could let me know a little bit about yourself and just share just basic things about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Susan Ritz. I'm 44 years old. I'm from Connecticut. I was born and raised there. I have a bachelor's from UConn in business, and well, I worked as a micro loaner. I did that internationally. I went to different countries that were less fortunate and helped people get money for small little jobs. They could, I would lend them $50 so they could buy a basket to weave it, or buy some tools to weave a basket to help them get a job. So that was basically what I did for a while. I'm close with both of my parents. They're still married. I have a younger sister who's 42, and I'm pretty close with her. They live in Connecticut as well, so they come and visit me sometimes, but I do live by myself. I have a dog. I'm single, it's just me and my dog when I'm at home. What else? I obviously am a right leg amputee. Doesn't take rocket scientists to figure that one out. So I have a prosthetic leg from the knee down. I mean, it's been quite some time since my life changed and the accident occurred that caused me to lose my leg, but I mean, it's a part of me now, and I'm trying to deal with it the best that I can. As part of the accident, I guess I kind of deal with a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder, which I can get into later with you if you'd like, but I'm a little anxious and I keep reliving what happened to me. But I mean, other than that, I'm just trying to live each day, day by day. Lucky that I'm still alive after what happened to me, and just trying to get as much support from family and the little friends that I do have to help me through my situation.
Okay, so as I'm writing in my notes, which my notes are just to kind of recap later on, you did say that you were in an accident and that it did change your life physically and I'm sure emotionally, like you said, with PTSD. Could you go a little more in detail with maybe at what age that the accident happened and what specifically happened during that accident?
Okay. I was about 40 years old, so 4 years ago.
Okay.
Like I said, I was an international micro loaner. So I was in Africa, doing loans for people in small villages so that they could get themselves on their feet and get money to support themselves. I was with my whole company. We were all out there. We had an apartment building that we were staying in. My day of work was over, so I was driving back to my apartment with my colleague. And the last thing I remember was pulling into the parking spot, and then I woke up in a hospital in New Haven, Connecticut. I was in a coma for 3 months. I had a trach in my throat because I couldn't breathe. My body was completely crushed, and that is because when I pulled into the parking lot at the same exact moment, the water tower to the right of the apartment crashed, fell in the apartment, fell in the parking lot, and I almost lost my life. So it was a very traumatic experience, and although I lost my leg, I'm so happy to just be alive.
Yeah, I think that's something that you should definitely be grateful for. Like you said, you are, and I'm glad that you are able to, just be alive and just, take things day by day. So you said that you were there for work, and that sounds like something that's pretty serious. You're over there, in Africa, helping these people. Is that something that you still continue to do? Maybe not the traveling, but are you still in that sort of business? Or
Well, unfortunately, since the accident, because it was so traumatic physically, I suffer mild brain damage. I can't work anymore. I tried as soon as I was able to function normally. I tried working in small offices, just doing petty secretarial tasks and organizing folders and binders, but it's very hard for me to stay focused and pay attention for long periods of time. It's really hard for me to remember things. So, working in an office environment was not only frustrating for me because I couldn't focus or maintain information in my brain, but because I was slower, it affected everybody else in the office. And I felt responsible for the office going slower and people getting frustrated with me. So, I just quit. So, I would say that currently I'm unemployed. I have a lot of money saved up because of a lawsuit that I filed to the apartment building and the water tower that exploded. Um, I have a lot of support from my parents financially also because they understand that I can't work. From time to time, I do try to sell little knickknacks on eBay. Um, I'm really into like basket weaving or quilting, just little arts and crafts. If I find the time to make, I'll sell them on eBay just for fun, kind of like a little hobby. But other than that, I can't work, and it is frustrating because I miss having a job and I miss being occupied a lot of the time. But at the same time, because of my PTSD and because I'm a little ashamed of my appearance, I don't really like to be in public. And like I said earlier, I have a very small network of friends just because I really don't like the way I look. And I'm embarrassed that I can't function the way I used to physically and cognitively. So I would say that it's just easier for me to stay in my house.
so, with vocational goals, like you were saying, you do struggle with communicating with people outside of your home, and you find comfort being alone because of some sort of self-esteem and things that are happening with you. So do you see yourself within the next few years possibly going back out into the workforce, or do you still think that it's something that you can kind of change along with other things that you've changed in your life?
Um, I think maybe someday it would be nice to get another job, a real job, but it's difficult because there's only so much I can do. And I do have a lot of financial support, which I'm very thankful for. Um, However, I do miss being occupied with a job, like I said. Um, I do have a couple hobbies that I do. Um, I'm very like affluent on social media. I I talk with a lot of other amputees, and like that pretty much comprises my social network. It's just people online who have dealt with traumatic experiences and amputations, and we kind of counsel each other just friend to friend, and it's all anonymous. So While I don't exactly know who I'm talking to, it's still comforting, especially because I can't always talk to my family, just because they don't live that close to me, or they could be sleeping and they have their own jobs and stuff. So it's good to have at least a figurative person to speak with. Um, but it's hard to talk with people in person. I have a lot of trouble being in closed areas, for example, parking garages and parking lots. It's just, since I can drive, because I'm very lucky, I have a handicap accessible car, my leg is able to rest and I'll drive with my left foot.
Okay.
I try to park away from parking garages and parking lots. I like to be in a really open space, and I have trouble being on the bottom floor of a building for a long time because it just kind of brings back bad memories. But also because of my PTSD, it brings back the worst memory was that when my friend and I were in the parking lot and the water tower exploded, everybody died except me. I woke up 3 months later with none of my friends, and nobody knew. Well, everybody knew except me. That's what it came down to. And that's the worst aspect of my PTSD is I feel responsible and I feel guilty for being alive. I'm thankful to be alive, but I can't help but feel guilty that nobody else made it out but myself.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you did say that you did go through such a traumatic experience and that you are very grateful and happy that you made it out alive. But because you feel like you carry the baggage of being the only one who survived that tragic situation, it's something that you hold on to very, very tightly, and um, it makes it hard to go out and do things that you maybe wanted to do in the past and can't do anymore. Um, and like you were talking about with your family, they're close to you, but they don't live very close anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that you kind of you deal with? Is it something that you wish they were close to you, or?
Well, I am a grown woman, and I was a grown woman the uh, when the tower exploded, when I lost my leg. So for a while, I was living with my parents. My mom was the one that got me I was airlifted from Africa to France to go to a better hospital for them to amputate my leg. So my mom immediately took me in. So I was living with her for a while I was in rehab. I had a compression sock on my knee for a while, and she was helping me treat that. She was helping me wash it. She was making sure I was taking my medications on time. So until I was completely rehabbed and able to relearn how to drive a car with my left foot and, you know, be comfortable in a wheelchair, I have crutches as well. I stay with her. But then I moved out when I realized that I need to be able to do this on my own because I am a very independent person, despite when I get a little bit alone with my thoughts and get a little antsy, I feel a little guilty. But my house that I live now by myself with my dog is very open, handicap accessible. There's a ramp to get up. It's a loft style, so big hallways, big doorways. Everything is a little bit lower so that I can reach if I'm in a wheelchair. I mean, my parents might not live the closest, but they are still in Connecticut. So if I really did need them for an emergency, they would be there to help me. But since I am grown, I still like to think that I can do things on my own and I'm not letting my disability really define me too much.
So do you consider yourself to be more independent than maybe most people with disabilities? Could you tell me a little more about like as soon as you had the accident to like now, what has the difference been with your independence? Do you feel more independent now, or expand on that?
I definitely do feel more independent now, mostly because right after the accident, I physically could not be independent, physically and emotionally. Um, Obviously, physically because I was missing half of my leg, and I had to go to a lot of physical and occupational therapy to get myself back on my feet, literally. Um, and I had to make sure that I was doing all the treatments they told me, all the exercises. I had to relearn how to sleep, how to sit up, how to walk. Basically everything that we take for granted that's natural, I had to relearn to do. Um, and as far as my PTSD, I would say I'm more independent now because I'm on medication to handle it. Um, but back then it was very new to me. Just reoccurring thoughts and seeing what could have happened in my head even though I was unconscious for 3 months and picturing myself without a leg in Africa, it was very traumatizing to think about. So I needed to be with somebody to make sure that I didn't lose my mind pretty much. To take care of the PTSD, I was prescribed um, I was prescribed a couple antidepressants and SSRIs by my cognitive behavioral therapist, but I don't see my cognitive behavioral therapist anymore because we just didn't see eye to eye on a couple of things, which is why I'm also here today because I'm just looking for a new outlook on basically how to handle my post traumatic stress disorder. And I have a couple goals that I want to achieve in life that we could talk about too. And um, I feel that my PTSD has gotten a little bit better, but it's not totally resolved. And I don't think it's ever going to be resolved, but I think that I can at least numb the feelings for a while by talking it out. And, you know, as far as my leg being in pain, I was prescribed a lot of Percocet back when the accident occurred just because the pain was unbearable and a lot of it was mental. I had a lot of phantom limb pain, but as soon as I got over that, the doctor would prescribe me just a pretty mediocre dose of codeine to help me sleep at night. And since I'm so used to not having a leg because it's been 4 years, I'll take just ibuprofen. And if I really have trouble, I still have codeine to help me sleep at night. But other than that, it's really just SSRIs to help my PTSD and just a mild pain reliever for my leg.
So you were telling me that you have medications that you use to help with coping with your pain and things like that, and you had the support from your family when you were going through the accident. They were there for you very closely. I was wanting to know if you maybe had any other influences that have been involved, like maybe religious or maybe other organizations or things like that that you've been a part of.
Well, I'm not very religious. I never really have been my whole life. My family just kind of stayed neutral. We didn't really have any kind of spiritual um, responsibilities. I mean, we celebrated Christmas and a lot of just the basic holidays, but we were never big into going to church and being very like orthodox per se. But I do believe in God, and I think that God is the reason that I'm still alive. Although I did lose my leg, I'm very thankful to be here. One of my biggest influencers would be my sister, just because I talk to her every day, at least on the phone, because I can't see her all the time because we don't live that close. But um, I talk with her, and she has motivated me to start the social media, which I still do. Um, and she helped me kind of realize that although I'm missing half of my leg, I can still exercise, which it was something that I did before the accident. I was training for a marathon. I was in really good shape, and I still like to consider myself in shape. And I feel that the reason I survived was because my heart is so strong from running and training all the time. So she's a big influence in the sense that she's keeping me going and keeping me motivated to start running again. Part of my social networking is talking with people who do athletics with a prosthetic, and it's beyond motivational. I just need to get over the hump of getting out of my house and talking with people because it is frightening to me to be somewhere where someone can see my scar on my neck or someone will see my leg and make fun of me. I've gotten a lot better about it, and I would say I'm almost ready to go about training for this marathon again. But she definitely is the reason that I'm even considering it. So without her, I would probably not even be here. I might even still be at my old cognitive behavioral therapist talking about things that we didn't get along with.
Okay. So, just to recap what you were saying, you definitely have been very active since your tragic situation, and even before you were very active, and your sister was very helpful with that. Do you feel that with your social media and you're interacting with so many people that you might be a positive, like kind of influence on other people? If you were to, eventually have the motivation for other people to go out there and speak to people, do you think that you could do that? Be a sort of motivational speaker?
Um, I would like to think that maybe someday I could get up and explain my story because I think my story really is moving. I think it's one of a kind. It's just very difficult for me to gain the confidence to do so, but I think that by completing a marathon eventually, I'll gain all of my confidence back because I mean, I'll have ran a marathon with just one leg, and by doing that, I would love to be able to talk to people and explain how I got over myself and how I got over the trauma and the anxiety and just starting all over again, like relearning how to live life. I would love to motivate people to go on like I did and have been trying to do, but I think that I myself need to focus more on getting myself to that point. So I really feel that by completing this marathon, not only will I get myself back in shape, but I'll be confident enough after completing it to help others get to where they need to be.
Okay. So, from what I'm getting from this interview is that you're very independent and very self-sufficient, and that living a daily life is not something that is really that hard for you having an amputated leg. You try and not use that as a hindrance, but it does get involved with the way you want to interact with people, and that's something that you definitely want to work on. And it appears that you just want some more guidance on how to do that, and I hope that we can be of assistance for that. Um, but before we end the interview, I was hoping that you could let me know if there's anything else you wanted to talk about, any presenting problems besides your PTSD and besides just the lack of confidence of speaking with people.
Not that I can really think of. We pretty much covered uh, a lot of the basic things about me that I think that you should know. I feel a little better since talking to you already. Um, I think that I'm gonna try to start reaching out and maybe finding a trainer, maybe working with my sister to find a trainer that can help me get back in shape and talking to my physical and occupational therapist. I have a really strong team of people from my past, doctors, therapists, that can maybe help me get there. But other than that, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Okay, so along with your doctors and your therapists, I'm hoping that our rehabilitation center can be of assistance for you.
Okay.
So hopefully you are able to come back and work with us. So I want to thank you for coming out today, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you very